Welcome back to my Cosplay Competition Series. If you missed the previous video, I'll put a little eye icon here and there'll be a link in the description. In this video, we're going to be talking about choosing the right costume to make for a competition and things to be sure of whilst you're making it. Make sure to stay tuned and I hope you learn a lot. Let's go! Snack break! But Robin, is choosing which character you want to cosplay an issue? Not at all, but with a cosplay competition, it's advantageous to be able to show off different techniques and skills within the craft. It is a competition after all. Reminder that this is something I'm saying from my perspective and experience. You are welcome to enter any costume that you have made into a competition. Again, this video series is just to help you improve your chances of winning, that's all. You don't have to follow any of this advice, just pick and choose which bits work best for you. Let's start with choosing the right character. Judges will be looking for techniques used and how they are done. So if you choose a costume like a school uniform, for example, and it's mainly just sewing and there's not much else to it, it doesn't give the judges much to go on. But let's take this simple school uniform costume and give you an example of how it could be more technical. You could have come up with the pattern from scratch. You could have hand-dyed parts of the fabric. There could be various different materials used for it. Everything could be lined, hemmed, and top-stitched perfectly. And most importantly, it could look 100% accurate to the reference picture. If you are going to do something like that, then that is showing technique. This would be as opposed to buying a pre-made pattern and just sewing it up and then boom, jobs are good. You've only then shown one technique that you can sew a pre-made pattern. But if you did the other things I just suggested, that's more techniques. Now let's look at something a little bit more complicated. I'm going to walk you through my bennets. The bags are made out of either warbler or foam and wrapped in fabric. Not only that, but the bags are usable and the inside of them is nice and crisp too. I use top stitching and hand stitching along the edges of different parts of the costume. I patterned everything myself, though some parts have seen better days and need some repair. The vision is 3D printed with resin. Parts of it, like the belt, were sculpted out of foam clay, wrapped in warbler, sanded for hours to get the perfect finish. Some parts are made of material called sintra for stability. Other parts I sculpted out of clay, made a silicone mold of, and then used either resin or rubber for the costume, depending on where they were going. On top of that, there is heat transfer vinyl, there is twill, there is faux suede, there is cotton, there is leather. There is a massive range of different materials within this costume. And I get to say that I've done all of that in pre-judging. Don't worry, there's going to be a video on pre-judging too. But these are things to keep in mind when choosing a character. While Bennett can seem quite simple as a character, there is lots of different details and techniques used throughout the entire costume to showcase my skills. I also made this costume with comfort and performance in mind. These little bits by the armpits here were made out of rubber so that they wouldn't dig in whilst I moved my arms. This part on the front, detachable with magnets. Means I can get the shirt on and off nice and easy. This bag is detachable with Velcro, but it also has extra strong magnets behind it so that it doesn't come off whilst I'm performing. At the back here, I could have cast this section out of rubber as well. However, when I sit down, I want to be able to lean back. So this is instead foam wrapped in fabric so that it's comfortable when I lean back. It's little things like that that really help make a difference, especially if you talk about them in pre-judging, because it shows that you've put care and thought into planning your character. Well, planning your costume, you know what I mean. So when picking a character, make sure that you are picking one that has lots of different techniques that you can use, is something you can perform in, is something comfortable to be worn for a long period of time, and something that you're going to have fun making. That's the most important one. It can seem a bit daunting to look at that list and be like, which one am I going to pick? Believe me, I know. Why do you think I've not put that much time into making anything since Bennett? I'm waiting for a new hyperfixation. There is one thing to keep in mind though. Just having more techniques does not make your costume better. You need to have these techniques done well. It is better to have fewer techniques done great than more techniques done Choosing the right fabric for the character is also a good way to get some extra points in the judges' room. So long as you have a valid reason for choosing your fabric, you can pretty much go with what you want. For example, you notice a large part of my costume is faux suede. This is because I'm autistic and textures really freak me out on some fabrics. Faux suede photographs beautifully and it has depth, but it's also really soft. So if I'm stressed out before a competition, weird as it sounds, I can just stroke the fabric and calm myself down. I also then don't have any horrible feeling fabrics against my skin, making it much harder for myself. The last thing we want is a meltdown before a competition. And again, like I said, I use rubber for comfort and flexibility, etc, etc. Go with what works for you. It doesn't always have to be character accurate. Obviously we are striving for accuracy here, so get it as close as you can within your own comfort. Say you were making a warrior, for example. You could use leather because that's what they would have used at the time. Basically, think of it like GCSE art. So long as you have a valid explanation for why you chose that fabric, it's completely fine. Now I'm going to be talking about the things you need to keep an eye out for whilst you're making the costume. I even wrote a list of things that we look for, so let's go through it, shall we? Neat seams. We will flip those edges to see what they look like underneath. Clean edges, making sure the top stitching is neat and even. Are there any glue stains on it? If there's a pattern in the material, does it line up? Another good one is it lined? You don't need to line your costumes, but it's great to get extra points. Just be like, yeah, it's fully lined, and let them see the lining. If it's a proper armor, is it sanded? Is it primed? Is it weathered? Seriously, my biggest pet peeve as a judge is when you see something that's incredibly big and impressive, but they didn't even prime the foam before painting it. This means the paint will be chipping off in places and it won't have an even application and a nice finish. Hell, even top coat it with a gloss or matte just for a perfect finish. And please, 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 for the love of God, sand it. Please sand it. Sanding is a pain, yes, but it's something that really elevates your costume, and it's worth the extra hour's work, honestly. Especially if you are stacking multiple layers of foam to make a thicker structure, where they are lined and sandwiched between. I don't want to be able to see that. Fill your seams, sand it, prime it, paint it, weather it, top coat it. Yeah? Whilst making your costume, make sure you are constantly looking at reference pictures. Before you even start making it, take some time to gather reference pictures of your image. Reference images are just basically what you are looking to achieve. For example, this is my Bennett costume next to a reference picture of the Bennett costume. Since it's a competition, make sure you are getting your costume as accurate to the reference picture as possible. This can only help to improve your chances of winning, especially in international competitions. The more that you do yourself from scratch, the more impressive it is in the judging room. And once again, as you're making it, be sure of the competition's rules so that you know you're not making anything too big to even be allowed on stage. I will wrap up this video by saying make sure you take photos of everything. It is better to have too many photos than too few. As a judge, I'd love to see photos of you coming up with the pattern, patterning it, lining it, any little intimate details that you want to show us. Anything that you think might be hidden from eye but is worth seeing, take photos of it. You're documenting it so that people know that you've actually made it and you've not just bought or commissioned it from someone. But that's it for this episode on cosplay competitions. Tune in next time where we talk about build books. Make sure to leave a like. If you have any questions, leave them in the comments below. I'll be sure to get to them. Make sure you subscribe for the next video, and I'll see you next time. Bye guys. Keep doing peace. What is wrong with me?